Real Men Feel with Andy Grant encourages men to allow and express all of their emotions. Despite what you may have been told, all emotions do serve you. Real Men Feel is committed to engaging in discussions that most men aren't having, but all men can benefit from. All links mentioned in each episode are in the show notes found on the blog at realmenfeel.org. Now let's get to it. Hello and welcome to another edition of Real Men Feel. This is your host, Andy Grant. We're currently in the middle of holiday season, and 2020 is finally winding down. Some people seem like it's lasted a decade. Some people think it's going in the blink of an eye, but for everybody, it's been weird. So I hope you're navigating the weirdness as best you can. One common thing I hear from lots of men is a struggle to make male friendships. So if that's something that the isolation of the pandemic has brought up and shown you in your life, I've recently created a short PDF listing all sorts of places that men can make new adult friends. That's available free. Visit realmenfeel.org/gift. Grab that, and that'll put you on the newsletter list for information about future episodes and all those good things. So I invite you to do that. But first, don't go make friends yet. We've got a show to do. I'm very excited to talk to my guest today. She's mentor, author, and speaker. She's a former digital marketing assistant and holistic pet professional who decided her life needed a 180-degree turnaround after finding she was thriving professionally, but seriously declining emotionally by being entangled in a painful cycle of addiction and unhealthy romantic relationships. It's my pleasure to welcome Malay Corona.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm really excited and grateful. It's Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So give everyone a bit of background. We've met. We are both in a coaching program of kind of how to support men more. And it's mostly men, but there are a couple women in it, and you are one of them.
Yeah.
And where are you joining us from?
Well, I live in Mexico City.
Cool. And is that where you grew up?
I was born in the States, but I've been living in Mexico since I was a little kid. My parents are Mexican. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I know nothing about what it's like to grow up in Mexico. So why don't you just start by telling us, what was your experience growing up?
Well, that's a great question. It's so different. I mean, Hispanic culture is just so different. I found this out when I started, growing up, and given the fact that I was born in the States, I wanted to know more about the States. So, started traveling, even studying a little bit over there. And I just saw, wow, this is so different, because down here, we are very family oriented. So, people don't leave their homes, even not even after they're 30 or 40, I have my oldest brother is still living with my parents, so it's a very different culture. It's like people are so close to family, and that makes it a total different way of developing and becoming an adult.
That's funny. I thought all sorts of assumptions that we all have about any culture that's not ours. I kind of thought the machismo of Mexican culture would not encourage a man guys are leaving the house at 13 to set their lives on fame and fortune. But that's really interesting to me that guys stay in the family unit. So it's tight for a lot longer than I imagined. Cool.
Well, you touched such an important point, because that's funny. You're right. I mean, I have never seen it that way. Like, machismo should encourage men to be independent since very young, to become a man. Yeah. But actually, that's not what they do. It's like you stay close to your mom. There's a very strange relationship here in Mexico between sons and mothers, and also, with men and their wives. It's like they are very dependent from them. And at the same time, some women here are very, bossy, very controlling of the men. So actually today that we were seeing this book that they were showing us in our mentoring program about women abusing men, I was like, whoa, that's so common here in Hispanic culture, but it's
Wow.
so subtle that nobody sees it. It's like machismo is so scandalous, it's so common to think machismo is full of men who are hitting or beating women, but the truth is that there's also a matriarchy here, and women are very subtle in the ways they control men. So that's why a lot of men, even when they're old, even after they're married, they still have these very toxic and dependent relationships with their mothers, and it's basically their mothers who are controlling their lives. And that's something that, for instance, happened with my family. We don't really celebrate Thanksgiving here in Mexico, but we do celebrate Christmas Eve and these um, New Year things with the family. I tell you, it was very family oriented. And I remember that I hated these holidays because it was always there would always be a fight between mom and dad, because mom hated my dad's family and my dad hated my mom's family. Why? Because my dad's mom hated my mom, so he would be like, well, how did you marry that woman, she's not good for you, blah blah blah. And the same would be happening in my mother's family about my father. They didn't like my father, so it's like parents are still controlling their lives of their children even when they're adults, but they still kind of behave like children sometimes. So yeah.
So as young as you can remember, were you aware of that your family unit was it dominated by dad or mom or equal or just always fighting? What was that like?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I didn't understand it as well as I see it now that I know all the terms, and the history. But I do remember that since a very, very, very early age, um, there was something that just was not right in the way my parents would like behave to each other and the way they would behave with us. I have an older brother, so I would see the difference between how he was treated, how I was treated. Then I have some younger sisters. So, I remember since very early, I really don't know how old I was, but I do remember I was very, very young. And I remember that I questioned myself, like, why does this happen? Why do men get certain treatment? Why do women get certain treatment? And how should I behave in order to get treated the way I want to be treated?
And what sort of answers did you have? Did you not have answers? We were just asking this and never figuring it out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the fact that I was just like a child, of course I didn't know who to ask, because there's also something very interesting about this family nucleus. It's like there's a silence. Nobody talks about these things. So it's like you shut up and you just follow the rules. So I remember that if I tried to express myself, there would be problems. So I learned since a very early age that I had to shut up and just like kind of do what I was like asked to do. And the funny thing is, when I was a teenager, I became very rebellious, and I started like speaking up, and I started to acting out and stuff. And that of course created huge problems. But I really feel that after that, like in my young adult years, when I started to not going into the extremes, not really shutting up and standing at all, but not also rebelling against everything, but really finding like a middle point. It was easier to understand. Well, nobody, not even my parents, realized this was happening. Like they were just following this pattern from their ancestors. It's like you don't talk about it, you just shut up. And for instance, like how this is the way women are, and still in Mexico, they are, like trained to just shut up, just please your husband, and don't make him angry. And it's like when you try to talk about that, like even with my mom, and it happens sometimes, and it still happens nowadays, when I tell her something, like, mom, that was not right, that's not cool that you let my father speak to you like that, or whatever. If I make a comment, she goes like, oh, no, 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 it's it doesn't matter, just let it be, he has a lot of stress, like she just like kind of covers it up, and let's move on to the next point.
So then in your parents and your household growing up, it wasn't your mom wasn't dominating like you're talking about you seeing in some cultures. She was much more protective and we dare not upset dad.
Well, the funny thing is, even if it seems, now I can see it, even if it seems that she was not dominating, they are dominating by being the victims. It's funny. It's like the two sides exist. It's a game they're playing all the time. It's like I'm the victim, and through my victimhood, I get what I need. And the other side is, I'm the macho man, and through my domination and my rage, I get what I need. So it's a game. It's always two people playing.
Yeah.
Always.
But both at times both parties dominating or attempting to dominate and bit of manipulation on
Mhm.
kind of on the stereotype and then working against them. Yeah, it's very complicated.
Yeah, very complicated. There are so many dynamics, like exactly today that we also like this book I was talking about, the one that says women abuse men. It's something I discovered in recent years. I was dating a guy who was telling me like it was a beautiful relationship, like it was very open, and we were sharing our stories of the past, past lovers, past experiences with our family, whatever. And I was impressed, at all the stories he was sharing of how women abused him and manipulated him and used him and blah, blah, blah. It was like, whoa, that's a total different world for me, because I mean, the way my mom manipulates my dad is by being the victim. But there are actually women who are taught to manipulate men by, like, I will not give you sex. Like you have to give me money, like so many other ways to do it. So it's really, it really happens both ways. It's crazy.
Hmm. So what was your relationship with your dad like? It sounded like were you just kind of like living in fear of this volatile man, or is it, hopefully it was more than that?
Yeah, well, I remember that, like, honestly, since I can remember, I adored my dad. I think basically that happens to every single girl. It's like daddy is hero, and you love him. But how, like, I remember having this crush, like I loved him, but I felt hurt by him. Like whenever, it was funny, like it was more like like a utopic relationship, like because when he was not home, which was often, he was an absent father in the fact that he was, like this, following this traditional role of the provider. So he worked a lot. We were 5 children, so it was not easy to keep up with the finances. So he was absent very often. And I remember that when he was absent, I was, like dreaming of the next time I would see my father. It's like, oh, my father, I love him, he's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And when he came, it would be like, daddy. And then he would be stressed or angry or whatever. And it would be like he would reject me. So that would be like, boom, reality crash, right?
Mm.
And I remember growing up like that. It was like a love-hate relationship. But when I was younger, as I told you, I learned to shut up and just like learn that's the way it is. But when I became a teenager, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And that's when I became very rebellious, and I would like speak back to him or challenge him. I realized now that I was doing a lot of things that he hated just to call his attention. Like for instance, they are very traditional and Catholic, and like all this, uh, women look like this, behave like that, men do this and they act like this and they wear this kind of clothes. So I was starting to do all the opposite. Started to dressing crazy. Actually, I started to dress like a man. And well, this is related to something else that happened when I was young. As I tell you, I started seeing that there was a different treatment between the way my brother was treated and the way me and my sisters were treated. So I was like, it's so cool. It's like, it's cooler, like the way my brother is treated seems cooler, and also the way my father lives seems cooler than the way my mom lives. So I was identifying myself more with the males in my home, because I kind of feel that my personality is like, I'm very adventurous. So I couldn't just stand the idea of I have to stay home and be a woman who stays home and cleans the house and takes care of the children. I was like, no, I want to go out and travel and see the world, and I want to make money, and I want to make friends, and I want to go to parties. So I saw that, like my father was doing all these things. And in a way, in my mind, somehow, when I was a child, I thought that I needed to be a man in order to be allowed to do those things.
Hmm.
So when I became a teenager, and when I started to be more in touch with like my gender identity and everything, I could not identify myself as a woman. So I remember like looking at myself in the mirror, particularly once my body started to develop. I was like, I hate this, I hate these breasts, and I would hide them. And I hate my long hair, and I would cut it. And I hated makeup. I hated dresses, anything that made me feel like a woman or that I would relate to being a woman. I hated it. I hated Barbie dolls. I hated, like anything of this, like the standards of if you're a girl, that's what you should do. So that started to create a real big clash between me and my dad, because my dad was like, how come my daughter is going to be a lesbian or be like a tomboy or whatever? So the more I saw that that was causing him trouble, the more I was like increasing my attitudes and increasing the way I would call his attention. And I kind of feel it's like it was two things. Like a part of me wanted to challenge him, to make him love him just the way I was. But also a part of me wanted his attention, and that was the only way I was getting it. So
it wasn't like a conscious rebellion against gender roles. It was just really personal in your relationship, trying to get attention.
yeah, the funny thing is, at that point, I hated women. Like I hated starting with myself. I hated the fact that I was female. And I remember that when I saw women who were very feminine, like looking sexy, cute, whatever, I just thought they're stupid. They're they're worthless. I would rather develop my mind. It's more important to be intelligent and to be professional and to have a career and to have a business. But I understand that somehow that's the assumption I made in my life, because I kind of learned that it was very imbalanced. Like if you were a man, you had a lot of privileges. If you were a woman, it's like that was boring. That was really like even I feel that it was like can't find the right word for that, but it's like something that is not valuable. So I see how I was, like imbued by these concepts that, I mean, let's not talk about men and women, just feminine and masculine energies. It's like in this system, there's this idea that the masculine, whatever thing is, masculine ideas, masculine behaviors, masculine energies are more important or more valuable than the feminine ones. The feminine, talking about creativity, thinking about expression, thinking maybe about emotions. This is what the system basically makes you believe, like you. And I remember my father was a real big encourager of that. I was very creative, and I've always been very artistic, and they would always tell me there's no future in that. There's no future in being so sensitive. There's no future in being artistic. There's no future. What makes money and what makes a life is, be an engineer, be a doctor, be something that will take you somewhere and that will make you some money and that will provide you a life. So at that point in my teenage years, I feel that I had like sucked up all those concepts somehow. And starting with the fact that it made me reject myself, I was also rejecting my mother, my sisters, women around me. But the funny thing is, there was like a clash, because on one side I was hating the feminine, but on the other side I didn't have a good relationship with the masculine, because I had this idea that the masculine hurts, the masculine is aggressive, the masculine it's always in control. So it's funny, like I wanted to be a man, but at the same time I didn't like men either. I was totally confused, totally like.
It almost seems like you were only experiencing the worst aspects of both.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or even if there was something you liked, if there was an aspect of femininity that you liked somewhere in you, but the masculine side was saying, no, that's not worth encouraging and that's not valuable. Wow. Were you aware? Was this something you shared with anybody at the time? Like, did you talk to friends about this? Were other girls having this sort of reaction to the gender roles?
No, the funny thing is I was in an all-girls school, Catholic school. And when I started realizing that all this was happening within me, and I remember, the first experience I had was when I was 12, like 12, 13. I was in junior high, and I remembered that I started to feel like sexual attraction for a girl in my classroom. Like I would love to see her, but at the same time, I hated her. It's like I would see her, and I remember that I kind of liked her very feminine shape. She had this really nice silhouette, and I liked to see her, but at the same time, I hated her because she was so pretty and so feminine. And I was wondering what the hell is going on with me. And I remember that not a lot of time passed by when in this Catholic school we had a conversation. Like they gathered all of us and they gave us a conversation about homosexuality, given from a Catholic perspective. So they were telling us, of course, that's not of God, that's a sin, and if you feel that you feel attracted to somebody from your same sex, don't be confused. It's not sexual. You just admire that person, and that's why you feel attracted. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what's happening to me. Great. So I convinced myself, like in that moment, junior high, oh, okay, it's just that maybe I admire her for some strange reason, and that's why I'm feeling this. Then when I was 15, there was another girl in my classroom, and I remember I hated her. I hated her because by that time I was like a rock star. I played the drums. I was, as I tell you, I was dressing very much like a boy, and I remember that I was very much into like the music thing. So that was my way to feel cool and call attention. So this girl played guitar, and I remember I hated her. Like, how can she play guitar if she's so feminine? Because she was like really feminine. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, a feminine girl cannot be a rock star, cannot play a guitar. So I hated her. And then it turns out that I was misbehaving, and they changed my seat next to her. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Like now they sit me next to this girl I hate. And we became best friends, like super best friends. And I remember that I started feeling, again, sexual attraction for her. And now I started dreaming about it. And it was really strange for me. And I was like, what's going on with me? So the first thing I thought is, I need to kill myself. Like, seriously, I thought, if I tell this either to her, to my teachers, to my parents, in this system where I live, I don't belong. Like, there's no place for somebody like me. So the first thing I thought is, I'm going to kill myself, and I seriously thought about it. Like, and then when I started like talking to her, because it was so funny. Like, she was the one who ended up telling me that she was in love with me. So we started a relationship. That was my first love relationship, with this girl. And I started telling her how I felt. Like, I don't like to be a woman. I love you. I love the way you look. I love the way that you're feminine. But I just don't like myself. And she told me, well, she was, like her family was not so traditional. So she had a lot of like new age ideas and stuff. So she told me, well, you can change your sex. You can get a surgery. And I was like, wow, can I really do that? Yeah, you can. I was like, well, I'll do that. And she told me, yeah, when we finish high school, we're going to get married. I'll help you pay for your surgery. You're going to be handsome guy. And it was so funny. So by the time I felt it was cool that there were options to change your sex and everything. But of course, I was not daring to tell anybody in my family. And in the end, well, they turned out to, well, they ended up knowing what was going on between me and this girl, because the school told them, it was a mess. Like, they really wanted to kick me out of the school, and my parents wanted to take me to a mental institution, so it was really hard. And corresponding to that time when my parents found out that I was gay, I found out that my father was cheating on my mother. And that was for me another clash. How come my parents, traditional Catholic, perfect marriage, how come they're like punishing me for being gay, but my father is unfaithful? I couldn't believe it. I was like, how am I supposed to understand that this is wrong and that's okay? And I remember that that's exactly the point where I started to become even more rebellious and to speak up. And I really challenged my father, and I told him, what's up? Like, how come you are trying to send me to this mental institution while you are cheating on my mom? And you know what he said? He said, Male, when you grow up, one day you will understand it. And I was like, okay, he might be right. Maybe one day I will understand that cheating is okay, that this is normal and this is what happens. So it was for me, that was really hard. And the only way I knew how to handle all that pain and confusion was I started doing drugs and drinking, because I just, like, I was so angry at everything that was going on, that my response was, well, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to destroy myself, because I don't want to destroy my father. Even if he's doing crazy things, I love him. I don't want to destroy my mother. Like, I didn't even want her to know that she was being cheated on, because first of all, I felt like, how do you call, like, if somebody commits a crime and somebody helps them, how do you call that
Accomplice?
person? Like, accomplice. Exactly. I felt like accomplice of my father, because I knew what was going on, but I didn't want to tell my mom, because I was going to destroy her, so I had to keep it all. And
so
then
this wasn't the family did not discover this affair, just only you did.
only I did. It was an accident, like, Like exactly, like a few days after they discovered that I was gay, and they took me out of school, and they were planning to send me to this mental institution. It was going to be the birthday of my best friend, you know, somebody else, and I went to buy some flowers near the hospital. And the same day, my father had been having like real bad headaches, you know, like he was going through a lot of health problems, and he went to the hospital. And I heard a call before I went to buy the flowers. I heard a call. It was an accident, like I just overheard. My mom said, "Do you want me to join you in the hospital?" And he said, "No, no, 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 no. I want to go alone. The doctor said that he doesn't really have any appointments available, so I'll be there just waiting. If somebody cancels, I'll take advantage of that." So I heard that he said, "Don't go with me," and I just thought, well, maybe this is serious. Maybe he doesn't really want us to know that he has a real serious health condition or whatever. So I'm buying the flowers. It turns out that they sell flowers near the hospital. So I was buying the flowers, and then suddenly I see my father arrive to the hospital, and then I see another car arrive, and from that car, this woman like comes out of the car. She was my mom's best friend, and then they meet and they start kissing, you know, and start making out, and I go like, what? Like he didn't want my mom to join him in the hospital, and this woman is here, and then they're kissing. Like, what the hell? So it was shocking. It was shocking, and I mean, I was the only one there, so nobody knew.
Wow. Uh, so your dad said one day you'll understand that
Yeah.
men cheat and it's okay. So
Yeah.
did that day ever come? Do you understand that now?
Yes, it came, but it's been a process, you know. Like fast forward more to the future, when I like around 6 years ago, that I started to really, really, really become aware that something was going on between the genders, and that I needed to figure out what it was, you know. And I wanted to understand men. That happened because I was, at the time, I was in a very hard relationship with a man that was like my father's clone, my father's clone. And I said, well, yeah, exactly. This is happening because I have not healed my relationship with my father. So now somehow my energy is trying to heal my relationship with this man in front of me. And I said, I want to figure this out. I really want to understand what the hell is going on. And I wanted to understand them, you know, like I really wanted to understand how it is for them. And that has like really, really opened my eyes to so many levels of things that men go through that I didn't have an idea, you know, because usually when you see this imbalance and you see men up and women down, you think, wow, they have the best life, you know, like they have the privileges. We are the victims. But that's not true. Actually, both are suffering the same things, just in different manifestations, you know, but it's the same things. So, yeah, I did understand why my father was cheating on my mom. I did understand what my mom did that, you know, like what both they did that hurt each other, and that created that gap between them, and that made like for my father the option was to cheat, for my mom the option was to overeat and to be depressed, you know, like they have different ways to manifest their pain.
And that's really what it all is. It's everybody trying to avoid their pain. And it sounds like you were willing to, finally you wanted to dive in and try to heal it, understand it.
Yeah, I really don't know why, but I think it's because I'm very stubborn.
So initially it seems like you're kind of wanting to understand masculinity and study and work with men was really for healing. So when did it become a desire to, or has it ever become a desire to work with men to help them understand themselves?
Oh, well, when I started learning about men, I just knew more men need to know this, you know, like, and of course, more women too, but particularly more men, you know, because the question for me started coming when I started working with myself, and I started actually healing my femininity, because I had this hate towards my femininity. So I started healing my femininity, and I started seeing that there were so many resources to become an empowered woman, you know? And I started seeing that actually it worked, like, woof, like, I mean, I see myself now and I compare myself to those years when I hated my body, when I hated the feeling of being a woman. And now it's like, whoa, I love to be a woman. I love, to feel my femininity. Actually, sometimes I even, now it happens like a kind of the opposite. Sometimes I even prefer to be more in my femininity than in my masculinity. So when I have to work a lot, I really feel like, oh, I'm drained. I want to go dancing. I just want to go and take a shower and light candles, And now I understand, like, this is really my purest or most authentic essence. But I was denying myself of meeting this side of myself. So when I started like learning about my femininity and how, like as you said, and you said it very well earlier when you said I was getting the worst of the feminine and the masculine. So when I started to have contact with the best of the feminine and I saw how healing that was, I started wondering, so what's going on with men in a world that it's all about women's empowerment? Like, where are they? Why are we not inviting them? What's going on? Like why are we supposed as women to be empowered and to be better and to grow, but why are we not encouraging men to feel whole too? So that's like where I started to have these questions, and I, now being an adult, was able to start finding answers, like looking for books, looking for courses, looking for people, mentors, coaches, etc. And it was eye-opening because I started to see the reality, like it's not like men are having the best time of their lives. They're really struggling as well, but there's this silence around it and it's not well seen. They don't have so much permission as women have. And I just felt a lot of love and compassion. My father is still the most important man in my life. And I just felt like, whoa, if my father knew this, like if he knew that he has just been carrying all this pain from his ancestors and that he has a chance to change if he wants, and if he knew why he's so angry all the time, if he knew, like why he feels disconnected from us all the time, even though he loves us so much, wouldn't that be healing? Wouldn't that be liberating, as it has been for me to understand him? So it's funny because it's been evolving a lot. In the beginning, I just wanted every man to know it. But now I also understand that you cannot impose these things on people. Like really people want to, like they need to want to change. They need to reach a point in their life that is so painful that they want to get out of there. If they don't reach that point ever, no matter how much, like I have gifted books to men, I have, like invited them to conferences, like you can do it. But if people are not ready or desiring a different way of living, there's not much you can do. So also I learned that when you are trying to change somebody, you are controlling them, and you are trying to change them because of your own benefit. Like it's like, for instance, my mom has always wanted my father to be different because she would like to have a husband who would support her, who would blah blah blah. But that's what she would like for herself, and that is kind of selfish. And I realized that was what I was doing with my father too. Like I was trying to make him the father I needed, but I was not accepting him as he is. And the funny thing is that when you accept it, there is more chance for change. I am right now experiencing a very interesting part of my journey. I think this is actually the most crucial time of this journey with my father, because I finally, after years of working with myself and everything, I was able to step up. I was able to recover my power as a woman, and to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and these are the things I will put up with, these are the things I will not tolerate in my life. So even with my father, I started to show up in a different way. It was not a rebellious way anymore. It was a way of respect and dignity. So I started telling him, Dad, I love you, but you're not going to speak like that to me anymore. That's over. And when I started showing up that way, whoa, his rage went to levels that were unimaginable because he couldn't control me anymore. And unfortunately, we had a real bad fight that was like almost 6 months ago. And he stopped talking to me. He actually stopped talking to me. The funny thing is, I was not worried. I knew this was part of the process, and I knew it was needed, and I felt good with myself because I knew that I had done the right thing and that I did it with respect and with love. And well, I shared this with you and the guys in the mentoring program not long ago. It was his birthday, November the 3rd, and I went to see him, because in my heart I felt that I love my father. I accept him the way he is. It's his birthday, and I want to be there, because he is alive, and these are the times I want to take advantage of. I don't want to be visiting his tomb. I mean, if I have the chance to visit him right now, but I prepared myself. I told myself, Male, it's very probable that he won't talk to you. It's very probable that he even will get mad and maybe even kick you out of the house. I don't know, worst scenario, So I prepared myself, and I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care whatever he does, because I am following my heart. I just want to be there, say, Dad, I'm here because I love you. Happy birthday. And it doesn't matter what you do. That doesn't correspond to me anymore. It's like, that doesn't belong to me. And yeah, it was not the best experience. However, the funny thing is, I felt that by doing that, I was able to release, like, energetically, I was able to release my dependence to my father's acceptance, or like I was always complying to whatever he needed from me or whatever, or I was doing the opposite. If I was not complying, I was rebelling. So I felt that something happened that night, actually, that I even have like an emotional release, an energetic release, but also even a physical release. I became very ill, and I started like to purge, like to purge all that energy. I had even this dream that was so powerful, where I was in the middle of this shamanic ceremony, and they told me, Male, it's about time to let it go. You have to let it go. And I was resisting, and there were like these really deep sounds coming through my body, so strange, so profound. And then suddenly, when I allowed myself to liberate, I started like purging objects out of my body. And one of those objects was a knife. And I remember that when I finished, I looked at all those objects and I said, wow, from all these objects here, the only one I recognize is this knife. I myself swallowed it. And for me, that was so, like so revealing. It happened in the night of my father's birthday in their home, And then I actually started, like, when I woke up from that dream, I actually started like vomiting for real. I was feeling super ill. But I knew this is happening because I'm releasing all this energy. I'm releasing finally this really toxic connection with my father, and this is going to be so healing for us. So that was November the 3rd. I went to their house last weekend because I needed to leave my dogs, like ask them to pet sit for me, because I was going to take a course. So I left my dogs, blah blah blah, and then when I was leaving, I said, well, thank you so much, bye-bye. And my father was there. So I just told him, well, thank you very much, Dad. See you later. And he was just like, cool, whatever, And I told him, like, it was, my mom was there, my dad and my sisters. And I told him, I love all of you very much. See you soon. So I left. And I was about to start, like start the car. And suddenly my father appears next to me and he says, let me check your engine and your car just to see that everything is working fine. It was like, I was like, so cute, That's the way for him to tell me I love you. He cannot tell me in words. He cannot hug me. He cannot, be vulnerable. But he can tell me, let me check your car, And I just knew in that moment, whew, this curve that Dr. Jed was talking about today, I just passed that lowest point. We are starting to go up.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. To put the big picture together, that you were seeing the most distorted aspects of femininity and masculinity and trying to model it, trying to live your life with what you're seeing, which your parents were. I think each generation distorts it more and more. It gets more out of whack until somebody is willing to try to dig in to feel the pain so that they can heal it. And, you resisted this this feeling of the distortion that you could feel, thought it was you fight it with drugs, alcohol, questioning gender, sexuality, and you couldn't be authentically you until you saw it for all it was. How, again, the distortion, the mismatching, the worst aspects of really beautiful things. Masculinity and femininity are beautiful things
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you can embrace them. So, kudos to you for embracing all that, doing all that hard work. And it has it helped beyond you? Do you see your entire family kind of healing and being closer? Is the communication any freer between your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters?
Well, the funny thing is, yeah, like since I started my own like personal growth journey, I've seen changes, in my family without me having to actually tell them anything. I believe this is because of the energy part of it, like when you like we are a system as a family. So when one piece of the system starts changing, everything starts changing. So for instance, I was the first one to leave my home, to leave the family, to become independent because of the fact that I was having these real big clashes with my father. And that changed so many things. But the only thing that I realized is that when I left that time, I was young and I was kind of running away from the pain. So when I left that time, I was not understanding that I was leaving in order to heal. I was leaving because I was running away from it. And after 10 years of living on my own, I was encountering the same problems, but now in my partners. So that was when I got finally struck in my last relationship, when I was like, this cannot be. Like, there has to be something that I'm not seeing. There has to be something. Like my first relationship was with this because I was a very masculine woman at the time. So it was with this very feminine guy. And I was just treating him like my father would treat my mom. I was super dominant, like really demeaning him all the time, diminishing him all the time, like not seeing his worth, you know. And actually, financially, even, I was supporting him. I was the one who worked. He stayed home. So it was like I was just repeating the pattern. We were fighting all the time until, like I kind of got tired of that 5 years later. And like I told him, this is not the way I want to live my life. I come from a family who's been fighting all my life. I don't want to be fighting with you. So fortunately, he was able to see it, and it was very like we got to be very, like grown ups in that sense, and we agreed to stop the relationship, and now we're super good friends. And after that, a few years later, I started this relationship with this man who was the opposite. He was like my father, the clone of my father, super dominant, and I was just acting like my mom, like, yes, whatever you say, darling, doesn't matter, hit me, okay, I can deal with that. And I was like, no, I had promised myself that I would never be like my mom. Now I'm being my mom. What the hell is going on with me? So I feel that those two relationships were so revealing because I could see myself in both roles. And after that, I said, okay, I want to see who I really am. I'm not my mom. I'm not my dad. Who am I? So that's been the journey lately.
Only lately.
Lately.
I think that's always the journey. That's the journey that doesn't end. But
Yeah,
I'm
never.
glad I'm glad it's coming through much better experiences than only the
Oh,
painful experiences
yes.
one for you. Cool. So what comes top of mind if I ask you, like, what do you wish more men knew? What do you want men to become aware of?
Well, now I have a better sense of what I want, or of what I would really desire for them. Now that I understand that we all have feminine and masculine energies, and that, like, the fact that when we find the true expression of those energies within ourselves, it's like the healthiest we feel, like the freest we become. And now I think that that's exactly what I desire for men. I desire that they find their own expression of their masculine and feminine energies, that they allow themselves to to express them, whatever, whatever they look like, because there's nothing more liberating than that. Like, in my experience, at least so far, it's like, whoa, like, this is me. Wow. So I give myself permission to be sexy. I give myself permission to be loving, to be whatever, or sometimes I need to be more masculine, and I need to be organized, and I need to be focused, and I give myself permission for that. Even, for instance, that was very interesting for me. When I started to heal my femininity, I went bankrupt. Seriously. Like, before that, I owned a business, I was super professional and always excelling in my work. But when I started to become feminine, no money, zero money. Because in my mindset, if you're feminine, no money. So it was awful. And I have been going through that process of, Male, you can be feminine and you can be making money. And right now, like, like this recent, like probably the last 2 years of my life have been showing me that it is possible to be feminine and to be the boss.
Cool. Indeed it is. Yeah. And it seems like it's you're preordained to go on this journey and to work with men and help discovering and investigating masculinity with, your name is Male, and in English, do a lot of people that you deal with in the States, do they think your name is male?
Yeah, actually, as a joke, people used to call me male in school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're tell me about your project, Male Wholeness.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Male Wholeness is directed to, like, what I look to do is to inspire men to dig deep within themselves, to allow themselves to explore these two energies. Because even, like, for instance, very masculine men, now I even, like, separate men and women in this kind of broader categories. There are masculine men, masculine women, feminine women, and anything in between,
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, I really like to work with very masculine men, because that's like my father's energy, and what I like them to realize is, okay, you have met your masculinity, but many of those aspects of your masculinity that you have met have been wounded. So let's help you meet some other aspects of your masculinity that are more empowering. And now, once I do that, I go like, okay, now that you have met these aspects of your masculinity that are more empowering, would you dare to meet your feminine energy? And like, it's really interesting, because the healed masculine really wants to protect and support the feminine. So, at least for myself, in my experience, when I healed my feminine, my masculine became, like I don't want to let her go anymore. I don't want to lose her. I don't want to hurt her. So that's exactly how I feel about myself. It's like, now that I have recovered this part of myself, I go like, there's other part of myself that says, I don't want to let her go. I want to protect her. I want to make money for her. Even that side of me woke up. So I feel that when a man starts to be in contact with these healed aspects of his masculinity and then his femininity, for a very masculine man, we're talking, because for them it's kind of hard to do the first step to go directly into the feminine. I feel they start understanding a lot more, like, because now they are working from their healed masculine towards their feminine. you know it starts happening that suddenly there's a unique desire to protect the feminine and to take care of the feminine. Call it the earth. I start seeing the change in men. Many of them manifested like they start wanting to eat better, eat cleaner, like they want to have a better relationship with their food, or they start wanting to exercise more, or to have a relationship with their body. Some of them manifested like they start wanting to have more self-care in their lives, so they start having this relationship with the feminine aspect of their life in a way that they had never explored before, because before, what I find most often is they are experiencing the feminine through addiction. Addiction is feminine, but it's toxic, They are exploring the feminine through like even addiction to sex, for instance. It's like, yes, they are in contact with their body, with their sexual energy, but it's through a way of numbing down, it's like not really being aware. So when they start experiencing the feminine in a way that is providing healing, nourishment, you know um, I don't have words to explain it, because it's a very feminine process actually. But it's like the masculine starts to not want to let go of that.
Cool. And what's the best way for people to connect with you, find out what you're up to?
Well, I have a website. It's malewholeness.com, or through my Facebook. It's also at Male Wholeness. So whichever, I think those are the ones that I would check most often.
Cool. We'll be sure and have those listed at realmenfeel.org in the show notes for this episode. Male, I really want to thank you and appreciate you for sharing so openly and authentically of yourself, of your family, being willing to dig through all that, to make sense of that, and realizing that you can help make others make sense of their experience as well. That's what I find to be so important in any one person's journey, is then realizing, oh, I can help others along this journey too.
Exactly.
Cool. But I do have to ask, did you ever share about your dad's affair or not?
No, I didn't have to. Like all things come to the surface when they have to come.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Of course my mom knows now, but it wasn't me.
All right. And your parents are still together?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. Great. Awesome. Well, good for them. And I hope the healing continues and everyone gets to be more authentic in themselves. Back when I first started the show, I always would say that, the only definition of masculinity that matters is yours. And you tell if it's good because you feel good. You like your definition because you're living it. And, and everything that's true for femininity as well. And I guess it's true for any label. Like,
exactly.
We can take on any label and, choose to keep it if it feels good, just like choosing clothes or hair color or anything like that. So, yeah. So thanks for trying lots of things on and seeing what was authentically you.
Yeah. It's a long process. And that's also something I always share. You have to be willing to experiment, and you will fail a lot. But it's part of the fun.
Yeah. And what I think it was Edison that said, he didn't think things are failures. He went to like 1,000 different things to be filaments in the light bulb. I found thousands of ways it didn't work until I found the one that did work, and as opposed to calling it failure. So yeah. So keep being willing to find things that don't work.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Malay. And everyone go to realmenfeel.org for links to connect and follow what you're up to, learn more about male wholeness, or learn more about your own accessing and embracing your masculinity and your femininity, because you do have both. No matter who or what you are, you got both. It is much more energetic, emotional, spiritual. It's allows you to be the total package. So again, visit realmenfeel.org, check us out on Facebook, and until next time, be good to yourselves. Thank you for listening to Real Men Feel. Contact us at realmenfeel@gmail.com. Learn more about author, coach, and healer Andy Grant at theandygrant.com. If you enjoyed this episode, it would help us greatly if you gave a review wherever you are listening right now. It takes less than a minute and helps other people discover Real Men Feel.